What is going on, guys? This is Mind Control Media bringing you guys another video based in the Destiny 2 series franchise. This is the second video highlighting the Titan class, and I wanted to go over a few little things, some unique, one-of-a-kind, rare items that I have acquired over time with the specific Titan. I think he's probably one of the most badass looking characters that I have created using a lot of the Tangled Shore web gear and the exotic helmet that looks like a friggin' stone soldier. So let's go ahead and dive into this guy's loadout here. You will notice that he's not currently leveled to the maximum as far as light level or power level goes. He's actually about 100 points short of being that. This is my first time actually revisiting this series and kind of highlighting some of the things that I found pretty friggin' awesome about it as far as characters go. So I just wanted to go ahead and throw this out there. I'm using copper and blood for the aesthetics on the paint, so it's pretty cool. It looks almost very Romanesque or gladiatorial, which I can really dig. The helmet is the exotic, the Eternal Warrior. This thing is just too cool as far as the aesthetics go. I mean, just really incredible on this one. Whoever created or designed this is an absolute G. Just unreal how cool that is. So it gives you Resolute. You get an Overshield when activating Fists of Havoc. So it's pretty important to be running Fists of Havoc when I am donning this helmet. Or I can just do it for the aesthetics and not even run Fists of Havoc at all. But it's pretty interesting nonetheless, and something that I've kind of come to enjoy as time has gone on. I've got a mobility mod there. We are out of the season of really having these style of mods in play in the game. It just doesn't do as much, and then now we have a broken down version of that's way more categorical as far as your stats go and what the stat boosts or boons are, which is pretty interesting. I'm kind of glad they did that. I just wish they would have started the series off in that fashion, or yeah, basically Destiny 2 from the get-go, but they've slowly refined it more and more. But every time I jump on this, I think since Call of Duty has come out, Modern Warfare, the remake of that, or the revamped version of it, I come back and revisit this game, and so much is going on, and so much has changed that every time I come back, I'm like, I'm going to do this later. I'm going to nope the fuck out of here. So I always come back and try to revisit it. It took me about 2 different tries of like 2 hours to not just get my house in order as far as weapons, armor, optimizing my character loadout / build, getting everything kind of leveled up to where I needed it to be, or at least in the position so I could go ahead and start leveling up, just preparing. So I spent a lot of time in inventory trying to do all this stuff, and then here I am. I still need to optimize more for this Titan build and start leveling him up, but that's going to be down the line. So let's go ahead and focus on what we had set up originally, so with the armor and everything like that. So you're going to see the Tangled Web gauntlets, Tangled Web plate, Tangled Web greaves, and then I'm using the Scatterhorn mark, which is purely aesthetic. It really doesn't do anything as far as stats go that really bring anything out. It's just all the aesthetics. So that aesthetic, I think, or at least in my opinion, is friggin' cool combined with the rest of this. I just wanted to have like a thicker midriff, I guess. So it just looks too awesome with the copper and blood. Just unreal. If you look at some of my weapons here, this is a fairly standard loadout. These are just basically throwaway weapons that I'm gonna, use to upgrade my gear with, slowly but surely. So you notice they'll have the Duke MK44. This is one of the best pistols, in my opinion, in this game. It is just ridiculous. They're fairly common. At one point, I was having a drop rate of like 2 or 3 of these like a day, so it was pretty intense. I'm glad that phase is over, but now they're doing it with other weapons. I'm 100% sure. But the Duke MK44 is just absolute. It is a raging bull. This thing is an absolute beast. The impact is unreal. It doesn't have that many rounds, but you can compensate for that by throwing a mod on there for backup mag, which is going to increase its capacity, obviously, to a higher level. I have another one on my hunter character, and that is the super optimal one that I have that I've been running on a consistent basis, and I'll swap it or bounce it between different accounts of whatever character that I'm boosting at that point in time. I just always feel like I'm playing catch up in this game, but that's a good problem to have sometimes because there's so much going on. You just, if you're bored in this game, you're doing something wrong. So as we kind of continue to take a look, I'm going to go ahead and optimize that setting as well. It has the kill clip reloading after a kill grants increased damage. So that's pretty good. The reload speed's a little bit less than what I'd like, and the epic leveling or tier is handling that I have for this weapon. So that's probably not the best. I'd prefer a reload speed, if anything. And if I'm not mistaken, my other Duke MK is just totally loaded out to be as optimal as possible. So I think it's a little bit better than this one by pretty big margin. I'm not seeing too much else. Range is always a thing, but it's not a sniper rifle. It's still a pistol at the end of the day, or a hand cannon at the end of the day. So I think this is about as good as this is going to get. I don't so much like the Distant Earth cosmetic. I guess I put that on. I don't know what the heck I was thinking. I'm a Gambit leather kind of guy usually, but I'm not a big fan of that one. Warbrick is gonna look pretty cool. Yeah, this is how I loaded out the other one as well with the Warbrick. Really cool, that darkened gunmetal with that almost kind of like brown leather holster or type of pistol grip. Interesting stuff. Another thing too, I've kind of highlighted this as well. I've swapped a lot of these guns in between characters. I got my breakneck, bygones, which is another one, and I have a lot of appreciation for the aesthetics of this weapon. If you just look at some of the things, obviously the wood furniture is a really nice touch. With the Gambit leather, like gunmetal black kind of look to it, it has a cool optic. I think it's a little bit overpowered. I would prefer like a 1x the scope on that, and it's a little bit more than that, and I think it's a little bit too much for myself personally. But it is a bullpup style rifle, which I have a lot of appreciation for as well. The aesthetics of it are always really cool, and this is a fantastic weapon, especially in PvP, depending on what the stats are usually. Rampage is always my go-to. I have an outlaw trait, precision kills greatly decrease reload time, and which is always good because I'm putting rounds on heads on a consistent basis with this weapon, in PvP especially. And then Rampage. Kills with this weapon temporarily grant increased damage and stacks up to 3 times, which I think is a great perk to have. So once you put somebody down in PvE, it is unreal, and that's one of the reasons why I always go to it, because you gain a massive boost to damage from that. So it's unreal. Again, we have handling for the tier masterwork, and then I have increased magazine or backup mag on that firearm. Then I have Rose. I'm currently doing some work for its ascension to make it a better weapon. I'm not a fan of the firearm Rose, just in general, like just how it is. Like, there's nothing that I enjoy about it that the Duke MK44 does not do better. That at least the optimal one that I do have, and this one is just kind of like eh.
This place would starve without us.
It has outlaw, like sick, yeah, cool. I didn't need any other stats, so thank God. Like, and then I have breakneck. This thing, I had busted ass to basically get this. Out of all auto rifles, I'm an auto rifle kind of guy, and this one totally caught my eye. They have a standard version without this leather strapping, and the medallion right there, and it's called the Hazard of the Cast. I was going for that one first. Once I had it, the drop rate is not very high at all. I mean, I've played a lot of Gambit in my day, and I have yet to see really any. I've only gotten like one Hazard of the Cast, and then the curated buyback one that you can actually get and just buy back with materials is like not what you want either. So, but I don't even know if you can actually get that. But so either way, breakneck took a lot of time to get. And this is the second one that I got. So I've got 301 enemies down with this thing. My other breakneck is the balls to the wall nonstop. It's just unreal. And if you look at some of the stats, this is one of the reasons why it's so good. So the weapon's onslaught allows your weapon, the rate of fire to increase as you stack rampage. So these both play off of each other. So you have an increased fire rate, and then rampage obviously stacks damage up to 3 times. So if you kill 3 enemies, you are doing maximum damage, 3 times more damage, right? Or substantially more with that bonus, up to 3 times. And then you're increasing the fire rate every time up to 3 times. So if you think about it, your enemy at that point is ammo capacity. And if this thing had a 75 round drum on it, this thing would just be so OP, it wouldn't even be funny. But that is where the Actium War Rig comes into play, and that is another exotic, but that means I couldn't run the Eternal Warrior helm. So that's just one of those things. But enough of all that. So Badlander is going to be one of the best shotguns in the game. In my opinion, it is the best shotgun in the game. I have yet to come across another shotgun that is better than the Badlander. And this came out in the Forsaken installment. Once this was dropped, I mean, the advantage that it has, or had, is absolutely clear from the get-go. This thing has an automatic fire rate of, which, I mean, swamps most other shotguns. 140 rounds per minute with an 8-round magazine is basically unreal when it comes to shotguns. Like, this thing is just an absolute shredder. I've taken down more bosses with this thing than my power weapon, guaranteed. This thing is just too powerful. It is just crazy. But that is a good problem to have when you are in Destiny 2. So I put a boss spec on there, and you know, this thing just shreds when I go in there. I just drop so much damage on bosses that it's just pretty much over. Or I'm chunking them so hard with the health that if I'm running Nightfall Strikes or anything like that, like, this thing just basically takes care of business. It has the Rampage perk on it, so if I start dropping other guys around that boss, I'm stacking damage up to 3 times, which is, like I said, unreal. So this is why I go for PvP, or PvE, I'm sorry. Rampage is key. I have Threat Detector on there, which isn't too big of a deal. It increased reload stability and handling when enemies are in close proximity. That's where it really comes into play, because, like, dude, I get that extra stat boost as I'm dropping increased damage, stacking up to 3 times, and just hammering away point blank range. And that's where this gun stays, in the thick of it. So whenever I get surrounded, this is where I'm going, or this is what I'm going with. I have the appended mag, but if I go down to accurized rounds, it's a shotgun. Like, I don't really need accurized rounds at the cost of, like, increased range. You know, so I pretty much just decked this thing out to be as beastly as possible. Obviously a masterwork weapon with stability of 10. With the boss spec on top of that. And if you're wondering what I'm running on this, I am doing tarnished copper with that really slick look. I just can't get over how cool that is. But that's just my modest opinion. The next we're going to look at is symmetry. Symmetry, as far as scout rifles go, is too cool. Like, the aesthetic of this weapon makes this gun much slicker in the game. I was like, yeah, like, I'm using a really, really, really cool, precise, elegant weapon. And unfortunately, I didn't get it to the point, because I came into the season too late, right when the Sundial event was basically ending. And I was like, you know what? I am so far behind on all this BS. I'm just going to go ahead and come back at a later point. I've got the bow Hush from Gambit. And so Gambit Prime, I think it was a Gambit Prime contract. But nonetheless, I ended up getting Hush, which took me quite some time as well. Most of that was hammered out with my Hunter. But, I mean, this is a pretty slick weapon. You got the natural string. If you just look at that stat, like, I want to get draw time even less. I have a Subtle Calamity, which is another type of compound bow in-game, that has that I've been working on way more. And I have a capacity on that bow as far as drop time that I don't think I can get any lower with any other bow, unless it's like an exotic or like specially tuned to do that. I don't know, but I'll take a look at that subtle calamity. I have it on my hunter currently, and I'll probably take a look at that. But I don't think I'm of the mindset that I don't think there's any way I can get a lesser draw time. I was testing it out yesterday. Within a second, I can have that thing totally maxed out on max draw string, and then it's just unreal. It's just crazy. So I could just hammer those arrows out like nobody's business. Not to say this is any less. I just have less experience with this one, and it's not really. I don't have any of that wiggle room with being able to trade up. So, it is what it is. But great weapon nonetheless. From what I do remember, down to about 42 enemies, which isn't much. But we'll kind of move on. But it took me a hot minute, so I'm just showing off that hey, I got that. Then I have Breath of the Dragon. This is the submachine gun from the Iron Banner competitions a while ago now. I can't even remember when I got this thing, but basically the same thing as not distant relation. It is Pillager, the Pillager submachine gun from the Gambit mode. So really a really strong appreciation for this gun. I really don't like the aesthetics though from the Iron Banner because it's supposed to be kind of Asian-y or like Chinese based or whatever. I'm not a fan of all that stuff, so I mean they got all the bells and whistles on there. It's just not as cool in my personal opinion, but I do like these underlying graphics on this slatted texturized pistol grip and then body as well. So it's pretty interesting. I do like it. It has like a little bit of ergonomics there for like putting your hand into certain areas so you don't get shredded right above the barrel. But yeah, so I got appreciation for this gun. It's just not as cool as the original. I think the original pretty much got the message across. It's coolness. I got the ringing nail. This took me a minute. Like I said, I'm a huge fan of auto rifles in this game, and I don't. Excuse me there. I am waking up. So the ringing nail, I don't like having an auto rifle as my energy weapon. So in the second slot being an energy weapon, I don't like it at all. In fact, if we could just steer away from that and just have auto rifles be primaries, I would be in great appreciation for that. But who am I? Destiny 2 creators and moderators and all those guys are never going to listen to me. But if they did, this franchise would be far more successful than it already is, which is saying a lot. So as we kind of look at it, though, I really don't have too many issues with that. I'm going to go ahead and crack this NOS Turbo drink. Excuse me, because we're about to get into it. So it's got Dragonfly. Dragonfly is always great. Precision kills create an elemental damage explosion. You can't understate how awesome that is. And then next is tap the trigger. It grants a short period of increased stability and accuracy on initial trigger pull. So although that's good, I guess, in its own way, that's only at the beginning of the magazine. And usually I'm on point at the end of it. So it helps out a little bit when you're first starting a salvo. But I mean, I'm not a huge fan of those types of traits. So you look at the two different types of optics I get. I get the Mayrin RDS, and that increases my range a little bit from the looks of it. Negative. So it's going to decrease my range and then increase my handling. So, and then we'll look at this aesthetic here. That is interesting. I don't like the full circle around that optic. I like the open top optic on this. But it's pretty interesting nonetheless. Here's a huge stat boost right there. I don't know what the heck I was thinking. I guess I didn't optimize this thing. But who knows. But this is from the Black Armory. So if you are wondering where I got this thing, you can do at the Black Armory quest lines in the forges, and you'll be able to do that. So the forges are events that you can find in different areas. From my understanding, the only one that I actually know of is going to be on the EDZ, I'm pretty sure, or the European Dead Zone on Earth. The only place you pretty much can go on Earth, so European Dead Zone. Yeah, but so that's just for your reference, guys. I'm going to have to take a secondary look at that and then kind of optimize that a little bit more. So I've gone over the bulk of all this stuff. Bad Omens, if we get into power weapons here, is pretty cool. It's from the same... it is from the same weapon set as the Gambit weapons. And I can't remember the term or what they called it, but it was like from the Dark Age or something like that. These are considered Dark Age weapons in the Destiny 2 timeline. Like before humanity found like the Traveler, or the Traveler came to humanity or whatever. So there was like a dark period there, and these are weapons from that period, I think. And these are basically modern or standard type of weapons you'd see on the battlefield today. Maybe a little bit dated with the wood furniture and stuff like that, but the aesthetic is has a high impact nonetheless. So I have a lot of appreciation for that because I love modern weapons. So as we kind of look into this thing, I like Cluster Bomb because it spawns rocket clusters around the actual missile. So you're talking about an area of effect, or AoE, on each missile or rocket that I fire. Then I've got the tracking module, so this thing actually locks on to targets when I'm aiming and will home in on them, which is awesome. And then it launches all those little clusters on top of that. So this thing is just disgusting when it comes to impacting and hitting targets, especially when there's multiple anti-personnel. When there's multiple targets, anti-personnel rockets are just A-okay with me. So, and then we have high velocity rounds. So the weapon's projectiles are particularly light and quick, and it increases projectile speed, and increases reload speed as well. So the muzzle velocity is up there. And so the Bad Omens, obviously, from what I'm telling you, from up to this point, it's just got a lot going for it. And then it has volatile launch. I don't know what would be better. I want to keep blast radius up there, especially with AoE. With the AoE features that this specific rocket launcher has going for it. So I want to go ahead and keep that intact. And then I have a boss spec on it because usually I'm going against bosses, so I want to have like a heavy hitter. But the Badlander shotgun, believe it or not, does a lot more weight pulling when it comes to downing bosses. So I might actually change that up to run-of-the-mill minor spec or major spec. So I have a little bit stronger of a pull on that. Or maybe even target adjuster and increase that ability to snap on target. Not like I really need that. I'm just shooting at the ground in a general vicinity around dudes at a certain point. And then my tier improvement is going to be handling for this weapon. So I'm going to be masterworking that if I got Bad Omens to that point, which I may or may not do. You'll see some of the things from PvP, play of the game. It's going to be a grenade launcher. It has snapshot sights, so I'll be able to shoot down ADS pretty quick, substantially faster. And then I have Ambitious Assassin, so it overflows the magazine based on the number of rapid kills before reloading. So that is actually pretty awesome, especially with a heavy-hitting weapon or power weapon like this. Because if I have 7 rounds and I, knock out like 5 dudes with 1 grenade, you're talking about an additional 5 on top of that 7, which is going to be like what, like 12? So that's going to be unreal. So that's pretty cool. Not saying I'm going to get 5 or a PVE, probably not the best, because then you're looking at a maximum of maybe 1 or 2 if you're lucky. So who knows? Especially if you're third party, who knows? So I have volatile launch on this one. This one I have targeting adjuster as well. I don't remember using that all the time. I just have it in the inventory. Here's another one from the Gambit, 21% Delirium. This is a really badass light machine gun. This thing just hammers it out. I don't so much like the optic up on top. I felt like they just didn't have a cooler optic they could have thrown on there, I guess. I don't know. But this reminds me of 40k a little bit, Warhammer 40,000. Just a little bit, and this is just such a cool gun. Like the aesthetic of it, just badass as shit. So I like the double barrels, and obviously the double feed up here, which is usually a bad thing in guns, but in this circumstance it's not. Killing tally, so kills increase this weapon's damage until it is stowed. So you want to be dropping a lot of enemies with this guy. Overflow, picking a special or heavy ammo reloads this weapon to beyond normal capacity. So that is another great thing going for it, because you don't necessarily have to take heavy ammo. You can do special as well. That's going to reload it. So I mean that has a ton of stuff going for it, obviously. Then you have extended mag. You know,
Shutting down.
you have 102, which is exceptional for machine guns in this game because you don't usually get up to 100 rounds with machine guns. And then obviously polygonal rifling, not really my thing. I've got 198 kills with it. I should be using this thing more because these stats are just unreal. And its stability is effing gorgeous, man. That's that's what you want. I could put ammo mod in there. Let's check this out. Ammo mod everything. I just want to get that backup mag everything. That's like my go-to. It's like, oh well, you know, it could have used more bullets. It's gonna be the same thing. I like it kind of beaten up though. Yeah, you get beat up. All right, so and then from that point, I'm gonna go to the Future Safe 10. There are some awesome swords in this game, and this is one of them. This is from the Shadow of Osiris. Shadow of Osiris, I think. The Osiris. It's so long ago now. This is the second installment. So, the Osirian or Osiris chapter or whatever, when he's fighting the Vex. This is from that installment. I don't know why I can't remember that installment or DLC, but yeah, this is from that. Obviously, you would have like one more if it was like more of a new, like a newer release, or but it only has one increased trait, so that kind of sets it apart. And then you can't really throw anything else on there as far as that extra mod goes because it was before the mods really came out in that aspect. So kind of a bummer. It is what it is, though. But a gorgeous looking sword, very rare. I haven't seen any other sword like that. And then from this point, we're gonna look at the Queenbreaker. This is a linear fusion rifle, and this is from the Fallen. The Fallen use these little Gauss rifles all the time, and then now I've got one for myself, so it's actually pretty cool. It's got a certain type of stock that's a fitted stock. This stock makes this weapon stable but heavy, so and increases stability, moderately controls recoil, slightly decreases handling speed. With a power weapon like this, I wouldn't expect too much handling, unless it's masterworked. And then you have quick draw, and then this weapon can be drawn unbelievably fast, which is kind of cool. But I could fire from the hip, but how much firing from the hip do you think I'm really going to be doing? So then I have marksman sights on here, which I'd probably do, but it's going to increase my charge time, which might be a good thing. The game sees it as a good thing. I don't. I want a lower charge time so I can just like be getting those shots, getting the lead out, you know. Then I have these combat sights here, so let's check out the aesthetic change of that. I guess there is none. All right, well, I want better stats, so I'll go with that. And the wire rifle, very interesting. I'm glad they threw that in there. They also had a Cabal weapon as well, that I thought was pretty cool. And then so my PvE. Oh no. Oh yeah. Okay. I thought I was in the safe for a minute. I'll show you my PvE loadout or PvP loadout. This armor set is optimized for PvE, especially with some of the work done to it and stats and all that stuff. I just basically threw this together and then made it as good as possible for PvE. I think it's very impressive looking. I really like the aesthetic of the paint, the whole nine. If you kind of look at it a little bit closer, it looks like this armor's been through friggin' hell. It's just beaten the crap, but it has that like unornamented or lightly ornamented aesthetic to it, where it's just like beaten metal. And then I just really like the contrast of this specific type of armor. It's just really cool. If you look at some of my stats, my mobility is 64. Resilience is going to be at 65. Both of those things are extremely important because I want to be able to move as quickly as possible, and I want to be able to take as much damage as possible, not just some glass cannon out there. My recovery isn't that impressive, and I never really go for any kind of recovery. You know, to my own detriment, I think at certain points. But recovery is not one of my main goals. That's why it's going to be on the lower end of that spectrum. Intellect, so I guess it decreases the cooldown for my super ability. I'll make a sacrifice there. I'm not using my super all the time, but I am using melee and things like that a little bit more. So I think that's where discipline comes into play. Or no, strength, I'm sorry. So strength is up there, which is pretty cool. So I'll take that moderate, um, you know, basically 50. So if we round that up, it's going to be at 50. So it's on the higher end, actually, not moderate, to basically make sure that I can get those melee attacks in there and get that lesser of a cooldown. Then I have for discipline, that's going to increase my grenade cooldown. And, that is moderate. So I'll take that in a heartbeat. So it's not too bad because I like having my grenades on hand fairly quickly. So sooner rather than later, right? And then obviously my intellect is going to be on the lower end of that. So the two things that I don't really take into account that I don't care so much about are recovery and intellect. Because if I have enough resilience, I'm not going to need really recovery too often, as long as I can get what I need done in a reasonable amount of time. And then so that is kind of like my PvE loadout. And then I'm going to show you guys the Vex offensive. I bought the Vex offensive like almost immediately when I saw it, because the Vex happened to be one of my favorite races. I think that's pretty cool looking as far as the armor goes. Hold on, let me get the substitutional alloy mark. So I threw Mercurian Sunrise on this, just so you guys know. I think it was Mercurian Sunrise, right? Yep, Mercurian Sunrise. That's like one of my favorites for sure. And then if you look at the stats on this one, resilience is at 104. So that's how seriously I take resilience. I mean, I want to be able to take as much damage as possible, and and just be able to withstand it and keep going. And I just want people to be like, dude, this guy is still like, how is he not dead, kind of thing. So, yeah, that is definitely one of my main goals in this game, is to boost resilience as much as possible, but at the cost of mobility. Believe it or not, I have a higher recovery, but some of that stuff is out of my control because it just comes like that with baseline stats. But you get the idea. So with all of that stuff being said, I think I'm going to go ahead and cut it off here. If you are wondering how the Phoenix Strife arms or armor was colored, I'll go ahead and show you. And that's Tangled Rust. Tangled Rust has that aesthetic of beaten metal. So just something to take into account, because I think this is just too awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and call this video here, guys. I hope you liked the tour of my Titan. And hopefully see you guys in the next video. Oh, one more thing before I do go. I just want to show you guys this speeder, the Sparrow. The G72 classical Sepede. The second I saw it, I had to go pick it up. I was like, oh my gosh, this thing is so friggin' cool. I'm the blood and rust colors for that gladiatorial setup that I have for my armor for PvE. Just too cool. I can't get over how cool that is. And if we look at this manly ship, this is not my main. I just decided to throw it on there. Beautiful gravities. Yeah, just like a wiener dog ship. But I've got cooler ones. Like I usually run the Buckthorn approach. This is the Mercurian Sunrise one for the Vex loadout that I have. And then I think this is Blood and Iron, right? Or Copper and Blood, I mean. Yeah. So this is my standard Titan ship. This is one of the old school ones. This is like one of the base game ones, but and then I got this Vex load-in screen for the transmat thing. So pretty interesting stuff. I just wanted to give you guys a little tour of what I got going on. With all that stuff being said, hopefully catch you guys in the next video. If you guys enjoyed this, leave a like, comment, or subscribe. I am here for you guys to check out. So if you guys actually enjoyed this, let me know, man. Show me some love. All right, with all that being said, Mind Control Media out.